Welcome to the August 4th meeting of the Mobile City Planning Commission. I would like to take the time to review our general operating procedures. Our meeting is divided into two sessions, the public hearing session and the deliberation session. In the public hearing session, an applicant or group application on the agenda is called. The applicant makes his or her presentation. Commission members ask questions, if any. Members of the public make their comments. Only 4 people may speak for an agenda item and 4 against. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, subject to questions by the commission. After 4 minutes, a loud beep will indicate 1 minute left to speak, and at this point, please summarize your comments. After all opposition speakers have finished, the applicant will be given time to respond. If you do intend to speak, please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, and give your name and address for our minutes. Please direct all comments to the commission only and not to the applicant or the audience. And please remember to speak directly into the microphone. On routine applications, the applicant may simply raise his or her hand if there are no objections to the staff recommendations. I will then announce that the applicant is in full agreement with those recommendations. If there are any questions, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. After hearing all applications, the commission will go into deliberation session. In the deliberation session, the commissioners discuss each application with input from the staff as necessary, but with no input from the audience. The commissioners then vote on each application, and the results of voting can be learned from the planning department. If some issues arise in the deliberation session that were not addressed in the public hearing, the chairman has the discretion either to allow additional comments pertaining to those issues in order to resolve them, or call for the application to be held over for discussion at a future meeting. Occasionally, 1 or more commission members may recuse themselves from discussion and voting on a given application. A recusal does not necessarily mean the member is directly involved with the application or the applicant. Depending upon the circumstances, ethical rules may require a recusal when there is only the slightest appearance of a conflict of interest. If a regular member recuses, a supernumerary will vote in their stead unless both supernumeraries are already voting due to absences. The Planning Commission makes final decisions subject to appeal on subdivisions, planning approvals, plan unit developments, or PUDs. The Planning Commission only makes recommendations on zoning applications, with the City Council making the final decisions. Please turn off all cell phones at this time. Roll call. Carlos Gant here. Mr. John Vallis.
Here.
Mr. Thomas Doyle. Ms. Shirley Sessions.
Here.
Ms. Keena Andrews.
Here.
Mr. Nick Omberger.
Here.
Ms. Bess Rich. Mr. Don Ombre. Ms. Libby Latham.
Here.
Ms. Jennifer Dennison. Mr. Alan Cameron.
Here.
We have a quorum. All members will be voting. We'll start with our holdovers. The first item on the agenda is 550-5560 Perry Road. This application is recommended for denial. Is the applicant present?
Jerry Bird, Bird Surveying Company for the applicant. Brief history, approximately 2 months ago, I think it was, first time this came up, the applicant had proposed to have 2 buildings on the site. We were rezoning PUD and subdivision. Subdivision got approved, I believe. Came back a month ago at the next meeting and had changed the site plan to do away with the 2 buildings. We combined the one into one. There were residents in the neighborhood that was here opposing it. I asked for a holdover again to self-restrict the property because I never had mentioned that to the owner. The owner has completed that. That's this information that I handed out. He met with about 20 of the residents in the neighborhood last Monday, October 1st. After he had studied, he was out of town. Conflicts on meeting times is the reason it was so late. As you can see, he's taken out what I call all the sin uses: the adult entertainment, bar, nightclub, lounge, tavern, firearm sales, gunsmith, liquor store, pool hall, tobacco shop. Taking those away. He is interested in putting an auto sales facility at that property. Small lot, 135 by 100, no, 160 by 185 with dedication. The staff report in the beginning, of course, I've mentioned this 2 times before, but talks about spot zoning when in fact it's not really spot zoning. We're asking for B3. All of this red is B3. The blue is B5. Let's see. That's residential agricultural. Dark green is R3, and then we've got this large tract of I-1 property over to the side. Between this site and Highway 90, there's Perry Road, a 25-foot strip of land, 100-foot railroad right-of-way, and then B3 fronting on Highway 90. And there's B3 down the road from us, 400, 500 feet down. That's this large red piece down at Bellegraph Road. And just asking for that one small tract for him to locate that on there. Staff report talked about suburban corridor in the map for Mobile, which it does emphasize connectivity to surrounding neighborhoods. Suburban neighborhood classification generally puts emphasis on residential as opposed to commercial, but it does recognize that commercial uses are in the neighborhood. That's about all. Like I say, he's self-restricted. He met with them. I don't know what their concerns may still be at this point in time.
Okay, any questions? Is there anyone else here to speak for this? Is there anyone here to speak against?
Good evening. I'm Mary Walker. I was here on last month when this was held over. I live 7099 Old Military Road in Theodore, Alabama. A group of us did meet with Mr. Randy Johnson, the owner of the property, and we still oppose because of future references that might come into the neighborhood because it'll be rezoned from R1 to B3. After our meeting, we came up with some signatures. I want to leave with you all's petition in opposition to that property being rezoned. Our main concern is environmental issues with our citizens. We live across the railroad track with one way out. So therefore, if anything happens in the neighborhood, we're boxed in. The only way we can go in is to go detour through the DeGusa property and go back the other way to 193. So therefore, we still oppose, because after rezoning, if we consider this applicant, what happens if he go out of business within a month, 6 months, and then some other industries decide they'll come in because they are zoned under B3? Therefore, we still are in opposition. Our children is the main concern. In the neighborhood, children walk that way to go to Theodore Middle School, which is Hankins Middle, and Theodore High School. So we are just still concerned to keep our neighborhood at least as much crime-free as we can, because we don't have a lot of crime in that area. And we are vigilant, those of us that are out there standing up for the community. We want things in the community that would upgrade the community and produce some industry to help build the neighborhood and the city of Mobile. And I like to leave these petitions with you.
So even with the self-restricting that eliminated several uses that you would have been against, the neighborhood's still against it? Or
Well, the neighborhood's still against it. We know it'll be in the city council's hand after it leave you all. But we still oppose it because of what possibly could happen. We've seen so many things doing research in neighborhoods, and a lot of our people died with cancer, whether they had prostate cancer, lung cancer, ovarian cancer, that we buried within the last few years, and we don't know what the fallout from all the business that already there. We never got the fallout from all the other business that are already behind us. And we're just trying to keep the neighborhood as safe as possible to make sure that at least our children have a quality of life. They can grow up at least to make it as far as we have made it without having really critical health issues.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Ron McCants. I serve as pastor of First United Methodist Church in Theodore. And I really just want to basically echo what Mrs. Walker just said. The community did meet, and they have great concerns about the safety and health of not only children in the community, but for the elderly and others as well. That site is located near not too far from elementary school, as well as a large apartment complex as well. And it is one of the main entrances and exits for the community residents to enter and leave the area. So the community has spoken against this particular application.
My name is Robert Walker. I reside at 7099 Old Military Road, Theodore. And I'm here to speak in behalf of the community. I have lived in that community all of my life. And I know the community. Mr. Johnson met with the community on Monday night. Also, he got other property in Theodore. He want to put a car lot. He could have asked for to have this lot rezoned. But he want to come in, say gonna put upscale housing. Who gonna come up and put a $200,000, $300,000 home next to a railroad track? The railroad track, and then he also said he tried to contact the person, land that bump up against. He did not contact the lady because the lady was sitting there. This property, I know the original, the owner, all the property that we are speaking of, the Willards, the Peavy, and the Jackson, and the Hamilton, Kerry Hamilton, and the Bolton. That's the property that he concerned about. I appreciate you all saying you all deny this. I would appreciate if this will go away, continue to come down here and to fight this. We are tired, but we are not tired, not too tired to come down and ask that you all deny the rezoning of a resident to a business. And my last statement, there was a place right on the corner of Highway 90 and Rock Road, approximately 500 feet, was a car lot. This is off the main beat. Putting a car lot off the main beat, I don't see it. Thank you.
Mr. Walker, I do have a question. I don't want to say this is the right use, but you did make a valid point about who's going to come in there and build homes this close to the railroad track, but then later you say don't change the zoning from business to residential. So there's gotta be some balance there of what's a realistic use for this property because it's in such close proximity to the railroad track. So what kind of use do you envision from a commercial standpoint that the neighborhood may be more in favor of? That's realistic.
Well, I would think that a business that will hire some people, employ people. This business here will not employ no one, maybe one. If he come in and develop home, sure. That was a construction company. We got several construction companies in our area that will gladly take on a job of developing this property. And this business just come in, just taking our resident and making a business district out of it. After all these years, I don't see. When we came into the city, one of the reasons we came in because we want to keep our resident as a resident and not a business district. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else against? Does the owner want to respond?
And I'll touch on 3 points. The access, yes, Cary Hamilton Road crosses the railroad track, goes south about 1,000 feet to Bellingraph Road. It crosses the railroad track. Then, as she said, you can go south to down Bellingraph Road to the Goosa Road, I forgot the name of it, Industrial Road. Turn and go east, come out on Rangeline Road, or you can go on down. You are not trapped in this location. Talks about children walking on school, walking to and from school. The site would have to have sidewalks in the development plan. That would be a start of sidewalks in this neighborhood. On crime issue, this site would be lit, outside lighting, protecting their cars. That would be a deterrent, I would think, to crime. So this could be a start of some of their fears being alleviated. Thank you.
Jerry, is it gonna be a car sales?
Yeah,
car
used
sales?
auto sales.
When was this annexed?
Oh, the 2008, 2007?
2008.
2008.
Did he own it then?
No, he did not, I don't think. But there was some former business buildings just south of the lot that he's trying to zone, own the rest of the property that he does own. So it was commercial. You can see on the aerial, there's a building still standing on that aerial, one that's in the staff report. So it's not new to the neighborhood. And even though there's residential lots platted to the east, the first 4 of them, I think, the buildings have been torn down, and it's just vacant lot. Looks like 2, but at least the next house is boarded up, non-occupied.
Okay, thank you. Let the record show that Jay Watkins is present. Moving on to our second holdover.
Thank you, Mr. Gann. I apologize for being late. I had every intention of being here, but Delta had a different intent. We'll go to item number 2. This is a holdover. It's a plan unit development and planning approval for the north side of Halls Mill Road, Dunway, Inc. Applicant's present, indicated he's in agreement with staff recommendations and conditions. Anyone here present who is in opposition to item number 2 or who has questions regarding this application? Okay, we'll move to item number 3. Again, a holdover. This is a subdivision application, plan unit development and planning approval for 6455, 6459 Overlook Road. Applicant present.
How you doing? I'm Pastor McCoy with Word of God Church. We had some issues that we had to take care of, and I just wanted to come before the board and ask, could we have this held over? I hired a new firm to finish up what things that we have left, and so that's my request.
Staff, do you have any concern with the commission holding this over at the applicant's request to give them some opportunity to provide the additional information y'all are looking for?
No, sir, as long as, let's see, it would be for at least the September 1st meeting. We would need the additional information in about 2 weeks. If he doesn't think he can have it by then, it would need to be then the September 15th meeting.
Do you prefer the 1st or the 15th?
The 15th would be good.
15th?
Yes,
Okay. Any questions by commission members? Is there anyone present here today who needs to speak on item number 3? This matter's been requested to be held over till September 15th. In all likelihood, the commission will vote to approve that request to hold it over. But if you're here today and would like to speak on this application, you're welcome to come down. But in almost certainty, this will be held over and the hearing held on the 15th of September. All right, thank you, sir. We'll go to item number 4. This is a subdivision application and plan unit development application for 608 through 614 Holcomb Avenue. Applicants present indicated he's in agreement with staff recommendations and conditions. Anyone present having opposition to this application or needing additional information? With that, we'll move to item number 5. Again, a holdover of a subdivision plan unit development and rezoning for 102, 142 A and B, and 150 West Drive. Subdivision plan unit development and rezoning.
Elizabeth Moyd, 168 West Drive.
Hold
I'm
on,
still,
ma'am, we're going to take the applicant first and
Oh, okay.
let them speak, so just
All
give
right.
us 1 second, we'll get to the opposition. Does the applicant want to speak? Okay.
My name is Craig Stipes with Broad Street Partners. We're the applicant. So since we held over last time, I just wanted to have a chance to tell you about the project. We chose this site because it's close proximity to the university. It's about 400 yards from the entrance to Stadium Drive. And we are proposing a very low-density apartment complex. And these are not garden-style apartments. They're detached cottages. It's a cottage project. And with the university growth since 2007, the university's added, on average, over 325 students a year. The current demand for student housing in this area has increased, so this would be primarily focused towards university. And the life cycle this has taken, when we first contracted for the property back in January, I contacted Councilwoman Bess Rich, and she was kind enough to arrange a initial meeting with some of the residents. And at that point in time, I displayed our original plan, and from that point forward, we had since scaled our plan down, and in the interim, we did a traffic study. And what the main concern I heard from the two residents that were at the first meeting was traffic. So we obviously commissioned a traffic study. And then in June, last month, I asked Councilman Rich to have another meeting with the neighbors, and this time we had a much higher turnout because it was a week before the Planning Commission meeting. And what we did is we took the comments from the traffic engineer, who we had never used before. He's out of Birmingham, but he's well respected, and I think he's actually done work in the city of Mobile before. And we implemented them into our design. And his recommendation was to have a secondary form of ingress off of Old Shell Road. In his report, the traffic study that we've submitted, his opinion was it was a fairly low-impact development, but again, we want to be sensitive to the neighbors and their concerns. So at the neighborhood hearing we had, I think traffic was still a main concern, that, and the residents, what their concern was getting traffic out onto Old Shell. So we redesigned our plan and allowed for a secondary egress to the west, right there, out onto Old Shell Road. And I think a couple of other notes that I wanted, that we talked about in the meeting that I had contacted staff. We want to self-restrict to, so the PUD, obviously, this allows, our site plan has 73 dwelling units. But we would like to self-restrict on behalf, for us, and what we committed to for the neighbors, that we would, on the R3 zoning, that would not be more than 9 dwelling units per acre. And I think one other additional note that we talked about that we've not formally had a plan for is we would like to be part of a comprehensive streetscape improvement from our property up to Old Shell Road. One of the comments we heard, or a number of the comments we heard at the neighborhood meeting were focused on lighting, street lighting there. There's currently none on West Drive, and we want to really do a nice development that connects with the university, and part of that for us is walkability. So we'd like to put a sidewalk from our development all the way up to Old Shell Road to encourage more pedestrian traffic from the student body or our potential residents. And street lighting. And I heard one of the older gentlemen that was there said sometimes at night he has a hard time seeing on West Drive. So I'm not sure what form that would take, but we're open to doing that. And that's something I think we can work with the Planning Commission on. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Stites. Questions about commissioners? You can have 3 more folks to speak in support of this if you'd like.
Okay. Does anyone else want to speak on support?
You'll have an opportunity. You'll have an opportunity to respond to any opposition comments.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We can take 4 speakers in opposition if there are.
My name is Elizabeth Moyd. I live at 168 West Drive, which is right next door to the area. They are planning a runoff pond on the side of my fence, and I am against that because that incorporates lots of mosquitoes. I don't care how much they say it will not incorporate mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are there, and I'm highly allergic to mosquitoes and other insects. I just spent 2 days in the hospital because of the stress this has brought on to me. It put me into cardiac arrest, and then I've had all of these allergies from mosquitoes, and I don't need this next door to me. Not only that, I gave y'all a handout to where my property is. It's highlighted in pink. And I'm again against traffic. I sat in my front yard for 1 hour, and I tracked the traffic come from just below the hill. And in 1 hour, there was 64 cars come from the residents below me down the hill. That's quite a bit of traffic. I do not want this in there. They want to do gated townhouses, that's fine. Put a park in there for the residents and their children. I've had a lot of people comment from the college that they are looking for a place to live and not live in apartments because they don't want the apartments' lifestyle of living. I'm also concerned about the crime because there are lots of crimes going on lately. And domestic, these apartments get in there may be a lot of domestic squabbles or whatever, and we'd never get any rest. And I'm just really, really concerned about all these issues. And I just would rather we stay a residential neighborhood instead of having any kind of apartments in there, because that would incorporate more traffic. And I just wish that they would just back off and maybe even do, like I said, some townhouses or something gated, where we can keep our residential family life there. That's what that whole road was always, because we all knew our neighbors. We always helped each other out in times of crisis or happy times. I mean, and we want to keep it that way. I mean, I've lived there all my life, since 1957. And I do not, and I'm getting peer pressure from the real estate people, and they're being pressured, I guess, by the developers. I don't know, but they're pressurizing me to sell my place. I retire in 10 and a half months. I want to have my place, my home to come home to. I'm renovating my house now, and I want to be able to continue to renovate my house. I do not want to lose my place. My father paid $10 for this in 1939, and it's been handed over to me and my daughters. And I want to be able to hand it over to them when it's time. But I definitely do not want to lose my home to these developers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moy. Questions by commission members? We can have 3 more speakers.
My name is Jim Sockwell. I live at 6125 Venetian Way South in Ridgefield Commons. That is, if you're not familiar with it, a group of patio homes, about 40 of them in our little community. You have a petition from us that obviously states that we are very much against this project. To give you a little background of the traffic issues that this council recognized, the edge, when it was approved on a fluke, because back then there was no accommodation for student housing. It was all done under apartments, and that's how it was built. But your commission recognized that the traffic issues were going to be a problem, and so the PUD specifically states that there can be no public access curb cut from West Drive onto the edge property, and that's because of the traffic problems. Now, directly across the street, which caused all the brouhaha, was the parking lot, which would not be allowed under today's rules that you have written. This parking lot had 2 existing curb cuts. It was a business there, a bookstore was there. It has 2 existing curb cuts, one onto Old Shell Road and one onto West Drive. And the parking in there is, I can't say it's 50-50 as to which ones they use, but some of them use Old Shell Road, some of them use West Drive. But there's enough of them using West Drive to create a real problem, particularly during rush hours. Now, the proposal that's before you calls for 300 parking spaces. That's a lot of cars. And these kids are going to be going in and out at least twice a day. The only egress is going to be right there on West Drive. In addition, there's an exit proposed that goes out onto Old Shell Road, which may or may not, but it's only one way. It can only get out one direction. So all of the incoming traffic has got to come down West Drive. I don't know what the total count's going to be, but I can tell you, you're probably looking at at least 1,000 vehicles a day. If you do the arithmetic on that, that's one about every 40 seconds. That's a lot of cars for that particular neighborhood. We really want to say to you that we're not against the development of this property. We would, if it was developed as R1, that having families in there, that's what it was designed for. When my wife and I bought the home that we're living in, we did our due diligence. We looked at what this property was zoned and how the surrounding property was zoned. And now we find that that may not be valid. And I hope that you all will respect the family nature of this area. It's concerning for a lot of reasons. Safety, if I were trying to sell my house and the realtor brought a prospect in and happened to go out at a time when classes are changing, and you had to sit at Old Shell and West Drive like we do sometimes for 3 or 4 minutes before you can get out. Now, I don't think you can say that would add to the value of our homes. And it certainly affects our lifestyle. So I hope that you will consider this. The other thing is that there is, thank you, there is a real problem when there is an event at the Mitchell Center or the softball game or baseball game, and from what I understand, a future football field coming. We've already got a problem, but on those days, it will be a real issue. Please respect the family nature of this, but there are other R1 areas in there that could be you could be called upon if you permit this one, and that just destroys our way of life. And we appreciate your consideration on this and hope that you will respond accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stockwell.
Yes.
Questions by commission members?
I don't have a question, but if
Yes,
I may address Mr. Stockwell and this planning commission. The gate that you made reference on that large apartment at the top of your street, it was brought to my attention that the gate was open, and I thought there was some kind of code or initiative from the city that was required to stay closed. And because it did not come on as a PUD, a plan unit development, if you recall, it went from the plan unit development to becoming one building, touching roofs, I think whatever qualifies that it's one building, even though they have the same number of bedrooms and lack of parking. It came on as a planning approval, which did not require the gate. So the gate technically is moot, which does also add to a condition that I thought was somewhat protected.
Well, this is even going to compound the problem. If they open that gate, we've really got a problem.
Well, I believe it's closed now. Last time I checked.
It is.
But that would only be at their will. They are not required by any law to keep it closed and to keep the traffic out from it.
Well, that
It's
just,
very polite of them to do that, but it's not required.
well, that would exacerbate the problem if they did open it. Thank you. Any other question?
Yes, sir.
If I may follow up on what Ms. Rich was saying, I spoke with the on-site manager. The reason the gate was open for the few days that it was open is they had a couple of construction projects occurring on-site. The construction workers were using it and didn't realize that it was supposed to be closed. That's, again, at the apartment's discretion, but they understand and they are being very cooperative in maintaining it closed.
But it's not required, and no citizen or the city can mandate it.
Correct.
That's really the issue at hand.
Thank you, Mr.
But I
Stockwell.
appreciate them keeping it closed.
We can have 2 more speakers if there are any. Yes, sir.
My name's Lawrence Woods. I live at 6182 North Woods Court. So it's off of West Drive. I'd just like to reiterate what's been said. West Drive is just a one-way. It's no outlet it's just a one-way outlet. It's going to be, in my opinion, this development with the traffic will make it a bottleneck. And I feel like in the long run, it's going to have adverse effect on my property value. And I've got concerns about the students at the development at the edge, the parking lot across the street. There's been several instances where they walk out on West Street without looking at their cell phones. I know during school, you have to really be careful going up there, and with all this new traffic coming in here, there's going to be a tragedy, I believe, before it's over with. And another thing, I don't have a problem with the development of family units, R1, which was the way it's zoned, and I would hope you consider leaving it R1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Question by commission members? All right, we can have one more speaker. Yes, sir.
Ernest G. Scott. I serve as president of the Farron Woods Homeowners Association. I live at 6114 Farron Woods Court. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak on this matter. Please note that the residents of Farron Woods are not against or in opposition to the proposed R3 multiple family residence known as the Farm Subdivision. Our concern, as the other neighborhoods that travel West Drive daily, as you know, there are 7 neighborhoods that currently use West Drive. Farron Woods, that's 19 single-family homes with 4 vacant lots. Northwood, there are 17 single-family homes. Ridgefield Commons, there are 43 single-family homes. Bradford Townhomes, there are 28 townhomes, and other single-family residents that are 12. If you add the Willow Creek apartments, there are 39 units at Willow Creek. The Edge apartment, that's 560 units with 255 off-site parking on West Drive. And if you add the proposed RA3 multiple family additional, that's 348 vehicles. In my survey of these neighborhoods in the past several weeks, the total number of vehicles that currently use West Drive is 550. If you add the additional proposed RA3 multiple family residence, that's 348. That would give you 892 vehicles with access to West Drive. You asked me, how did you arrive at that figure, Mr. Scott? Well, that's 43 permanent vehicles in Farron Woods Court. In Northwood, there are 39 permanent vehicles. Ridgefield Commons, there are 88 vehicles. Willow Creek is 52 vehicles. Bradford Townhomes are 59 vehicles, with other residents of 14 vehicles. And if you add the off-site parking at the Edge, 255, and the additional proposed development is 348, that's 892 vehicles. What we are asking is for full compliance with the staff report that was reported on July the 7th, 2016, page 8, section 9. The traffic engineering report that the only off-site improvement warranty in the traffic study is for the construction of an eastbound turn lane on Old Shell at West Drive. If not, we are also asking that the developer construct an access roadway in the currently unopened alley and to be revised from one-way to a two-way traffic with access to and from Old Shell Road. This will be a tremendous help to the citizens that live in these 7 communities, especially during the peak traffic hours, between 6:45 a.m. and 10 a.m., between 12 noon and 1:45 p.m., and also between 3 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. We're asking for your help. Please give this your consideration. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Questions by commission members? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The applicant care to respond?
I appreciate the comments from Mr. Scott and the neighbors. So a couple of things I heard. One was about safety, and I think maybe Ms. Moyd at 168 West had mentioned safety. One thing we have offered, or that we would consider offering, and this is more of a suburban setting, but and we've talked about this for some of our urban projects, would be offering a unit to a police officer for free, rent-free, to be on site. It's a plus for the students and the parents, and I think it adds to the safety and security of the neighborhood. So that's something we would consider to help with that. I did want to note that with the self-limiting nature of the R3, I believe my calculation, if we stayed in the R1, I think we would have by right the ability to develop, or the ability to build 58 units. And in this case, we're asking for 73. So, you know, from the owner's perspective, if another group came in here and wanted to develop R1, they could by right have 58 units on that 9.25 acres. So We're not increasing the density or the actual by right traffic, we don't feel like. We felt like when we heard the neighbors at the last meeting, that they were more concerned about traffic getting out on West. We approached the university about, and this had been an ongoing dialogue. The university owns the land to the west of us, and we approached the university about buying or granting us an easement for an additional 11 feet, which would have allowed for a two-way access, but the university denied our request. Again, we'd be willing to do that again in the future if that required putting some money in escrow. If the university acquiesced at some point in time, we'd be willing to do that. But from a density standpoint, this is not going to create a lot more density than what we could by right at the current R1. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Stites. Questions by commission members? All right, thank you. We'll go to item number 6. These are our extensions. No, ma'am, we're done, but I thank you. No, ma'am, thank you. We're gonna go to item number 6 under extensions. This is extension for Rosefield subdivision. Item number 6, the applicant's present. He's indicated he's in agreement with staff recommendations. Anybody here needing information on item number 6 or in opposition? We'll go to item number 7, again, an extension. This is the, you're recused on number 7. Okay. Let the record show that Ms. Sessions is recused on item number 7. This is a request for extension on the subdivision and plan unit development at 901 through 911 Dolphin Street and 2 through 14 South Broad. Applicant's present, indicated he's in agreement with staff recommendations. Anyone need information or hear in opposition to item number 7? Okay. Move to new subdivision applications. This is item number 8, subdivision app for 834 South Conception Street. Applicant's present, indicated he's in agreement with staff recommendations and conditions. Anyone here need information on item number 8 or here in opposition? And at any time, if staff has, commissioners have questions, please stop me. Item number 9 is a subdivision application for Riverstone Unit 24, the northeast corner of Rabbit Creek Drive, recommended for denial. Yes, sir.
Richard Patrick, 3317 Fairfield Road, Mobile. We would like to withdraw this application.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Ladies and gentlemen, the application for the Riverstone Unit 24 subdivision has been withdrawn, so the public hearing will not take place on that today. We'll go to item number 10. This is, Mr. Vallis is recused on item number 10. This is a subdivision application for 1804 and 1806 Tolman Avenue, 2301 through 2311 St. Stephen's Road. Applicant's present, indicated he's in agreement with staff recommendations. Anyone need information on item number 10 or here in opposition?
I had a question about it.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just curious, I was kind of, looking at the site. I was curious, one, if the building that they're proposing to demolish is a historic building, and if so, if there are any kind of regulations that impact that activity.
It is historic for the neighborhood. However, it is not within a historic district, so there are no regulations that would impact the demolition of it.
Do you know if they're building back or what's going to be built there? Or?
Since this is a subdivision only, we do not have any type of plans for their new development.
Further questions? We'll move to item number 11. This is number 6 and number 8 St. Joseph Street, Bedsole subdivision. Applicant's present, indicated he's in agreement with staff recommendations. Anyone here in opposition to item number 11 or have questions? Go to item number 12. This is subdivision application for 7765 Airport Boulevard, Westwood Plaza. Applicant's indicated he's in agreement with staff recommendations and conditions. Anyone needing information on this application or here in opposition? Go to item number 13. This is Rosen subdivision. Staff recommendation is to hold till September 1. Applicant's present indicated he's in agreement with that request. Anyone needing information on this or in opposition? Yes, ma'am, please come forward. Given the staff recommendation for holdover, in all likelihood, this will be held over until September 1st. The hearing will be held on that date, but you're welcome to come down and make your comments now, and you'll have an opportunity to speak again on the 1st.
Okay. My name's Roxanne Cunningham, formerly Roxanne Rosen. I have a home at 2755 2755 Plymouth Drive in Mobile, and I just am here for some information because I got a letter about using some of my property for a right-of-way. So it was just a rezoning, and I just wanted to know what that was about.
This is a subdivision app, so there wouldn't have been a rezoning attached to it, and I'm not aware of anything to do with the right-of-way.
I got a letter in the mail.
Can you,
Right, it would have been,
just
it
the
should have
notice
been
on
a
the subdivision?
certified letter notifying you of a subdivision of the property in question. It's not a rezoning, it's not, excuse me, anything to do with right-of-way other than if this subdivision is approved, it will they will have to construct a new road within right-of-way they will be dedicating, and it will tie into an existing dedicated city street.
So you don't know if it's going to affect my property, if they're going to use part of my property for a right-of-way?
They will not be touching your property.
They won't.
They
Okay.
can't come in and put
Because
a,
we did see some guys out there putting stakes out,
Right.
and they were on my side of the property, so we were just wondering. Okay?
and Ms. Cunningham, you may, the gentleman here in the blue shirt that's raising his hand, he's the engineer on this project.
Okay.
It might be nice for you two to speak out front, and he can
Okay.
maybe answer some of your questions and get you, your questions answered before the next hearing on this on the 1st.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Yes, ma'am, thank you for coming down. All right, anyone else needing information on item 13? This is Rosen. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm at 715
Yes, sir, I need your name and address in the microphone for us, please.
Charles Lambert, 7015 Nicholas Drive, North. I heard you mention the gentleman, the engineer.
Yes, sir.
I would like to talk to him. I just want to understand what the common area is.
Yes, sir, he's standing right there. I think he's going to get a crowd. Anyone else needing information on item 13? All right, other than that, it will be held over until September 1st in all likelihood. All right, we'll move to new plan unit development applications. This is item 14, 4101 Wimbledon Drive West. Applicant present. Applicant's present indicated he's in agreement with staff recommendations. Anyone here needing information on item number 14? Yes, ma'am, please come down.
Linda St. John, 320 Avalon. I just didn't want to pass up the opportunity to be a cheerleader for sidewalks. I realize that this application, the application was presented to the Planning Commission in 2013 with a sidewalk waiver attached to it that was, it was recommended by the city to approve, and it was approved. And it's my understanding that the city, even though a building permit is only good for 1 year, a sidewalk waiver is good forever. And I think that since we are getting ready to redo the coding in the city of Mobile, that is something that really needs to be addressed. I just do not think that people should be able to come up, developers should circumvent their responsibilities to put in sidewalks, and then it becomes the responsibility of the private sector to put it in. We have been, so far, we have driven over $1 million worth of sidewalks in Spring Hill. By the end of next summer, it'll be $2 million. We just received a $200,000 grant, a TAP grant, about 3 weeks ago to put sidewalks on Bittensburg Road. A lot of these areas that we are putting sidewalks on should have had sidewalks put on at the time of development. And now the private sector is paying for them. And I know that about a month ago, the Planning Commission supported us in our appeal of a developer that came forward that wanted to circumvent their responsibilities, ask for a sidewalk waiver. And I just want to thank y'all for doing that. And I just want to take this opportunity to appeal to y'all to uphold the law of the city of Mobile that requires developers to put sidewalks in at the time of redevelopment. They give 3 reasons not to be able to do it. One is that the trees are in the way. 2 is that there's not enough right-of-way, and 3, that there are no connecting sidewalks. Well, we have had to come back and connect all of the sidewalks that are not connected because that was one of the reasons that they gave. We have also proven in putting in over $1 million worth of sidewalk that trees and right-of-ways are not a good enough excuse to not put sidewalks in. So I'm just here, really, we're not opposed to the PUD for the country club. We're not opposed to any development in Spring Hill. We just want to make sure that any development that comes forward to this body and the city, that they're required to put sidewalks in at the time of redevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. St. John. Questions about commission members? Anyone else need to speak on item 14? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susan Carley. I'm the current president of the Country Club Estates Neighborhood Association, and it surrounds the country club. And I just wanted to voice my opinion that we oppose the waiver on the sidewalks for many of the same reasons. But we have lots of joggers and mamas with strollers and lots of children walking through these streets to and from the country club and back and forth between the neighborhoods. We have over 350 homes in Country Club Estates. It's also a cut-through neighborhood for people to make it from Dauphin Street over to just trying to get west Mobile, and it's very dangerous. The roads are already very, very narrow, and the traffic coming through there is very heavy, and that we think sidewalks should be upheld just because of the safety of the children. We also just felt like back in 2013 that no one was notified. There were no signs posted and no letters sent informing us that there was going to be a waiver, or there would have been more people here in opposition back in 2013. Anyway, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Questions about commission members? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Rich?
To the staff, on this waiver, was it just where it fronted a street? Some of it's backyard, if I'm reading this right. Was it just a cart front, no sidewalk?
Well, the sidewalks are only required along street frontages. So that's what the waiver was for, you know. Similarly, we frequently get requests for sidewalk waivers for residential properties because there's not sidewalks in the area, or there's not curb and gutter, various reasons like that. So.
And what we just learned is once a waiver is given, there is no.
If there is significant change to the development or the property is redeveloped, we will require a sidewalk or let them.
Even if they initially had a waiver?
Even if they initially had a waiver, but that would be a significant redevelopment of the property. The only thing that's really changing here, the reason for the amendment to the PUD is relocation of the pavilion for the golf lessons. The other buildings are already in existence. One or two of them may be being replaced, but it's basically going to be the same footprint. So it's not a significant change that would create a nexus to justify a new or requirement of a sidewalk or a new sidewalk waiver.
And when was that granted? 3 years ago?
2013, yes, ma'am.
And people were not notified, or is that incorrect?
To be honest, I really don't remember notification on that. There is no notification for sidewalk waiver.
And it was at the same time?
It was at the same time as their PUD, so people within 300 feet of the boundary were notified of the PUD application. So there was notification that there was a request to the Planning Commission. But, you know, what's before you today has nothing to do with a sidewalk waiver.
Anything further, Ms. Rich? And we can take 2 more speakers.
My name's Buff Teague. I live at 14 Warwick Road.
Sorry, one more time on your name, please.
Buff Teague. I live at 14 Warwick Road. I'm not against the development. I really want sidewalks in the area. I would like you to note that y'all required sidewalks in front of Pine Brook Shopping Center where Whole Foods is, where Zoe's is going on the end cap. The Country Club property abuts up directly to this. So now we have about a 40-foot strip of sidewalks, and about 1,500 feet from there, there's a bus stop. The country club property is about 700 feet along Airport Boulevard. So you're asking people to walk 40 feet on a sidewalk and then 1,500 feet in the grass or on Airport Boulevard. Just want you to understand, not making them put sidewalks in around their entire property is not putting a sidewalk also on Airport Boulevard for public transportation.
Questions by commission members?
May I ask Mr. Rose one question?
Yes, sure.
Since the sidewalk waiver was previously granted and is in effect, is there a vehicle by which those that are in opposition to the sidewalk can
Appeal?
Yes, appeal or
They-
ask for it to be redone or something?
They could
Is there-
appeal the staff's determination that a new sidewalk, this application does not justify a new application for sidewalk waiver or a sidewalk by filing an administrative appeal to the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Thank you.
Further questions? We take one more speaker. All right. Hearing none, we'll go to item number 15, and this is a sidewalk waiver request for 6585 Range Line Road. Applicant present?
Good afternoon. My name is Austin Fletcher. I work for CDG Engineers. Some of the reasons that we are asking for the waiver to be approved would be in this area, and I'm not sure if any of you have been to this area or not, but the area in question, a sidewalk would have some. Not only would it have adverse effects on the actual environment of the area, the area in question where the sidewalks are where we're being told that we need to build sidewalks, we would have to bring in quite a bit of material of dirt to flatten out the current slope that so that we could put sidewalks in. Number one. Number two, it disrupts the floodwater in that area and the natural flow of the floodwater. The sidewalks were also not required for any of the neighbors to the north of this property, even though on the documents that I've seen, it says they do. I was actually there, like I said earlier today, not about an hour and a half ago, and they're actually not there. So this would be a requirement of 1,100 feet worth of sidewalks. By the way, this property is going to be a gas station. So if there was a sidewalk that was required to be put there, it'd be 1,100 feet of sidewalks that would connect driveway to driveway of the gas station itself. Really wouldn't serve much of a purpose. Also, the road right there, the Ridgeline Road is a service road that connects right next to the main thoroughfare there. It would have to be readjusted to give the proper amount of room needed for the actual sidewalks to be put in. So that's basically what I was coming to present.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Questions by commission members? Mr. Olson, do you have a comment?
Well, in reference to the buildings to the north that were constructed without sidewalks, those were constructed prior to this area being annexed into the city.
Okay. Further questions?
Engineering, you'll have any comments on all these water environment issues? Because it looks like they're putting in driveways and parking lot.
Yeah, at the north end of the property, it does get into a floodway, and there is a low point at the north end of the property, but the remainder of the property, the part they are developing, is outside of any flood zone.
Nick, is it reasonable to require it anywhere other than in the flood zone?
What's your question again, John?
Is it reasonable to require sidewalks in all areas other than in the flood zone?
Well, I mean, they can reasonably be constructed. I am very familiar with this area. I think like the applicant said, I mean, it's kind of a sidewalk from nowhere to nowhere. I don't think it's very unrealistic that sidewalks would ever be constructed, you know, along Hamilton Boulevard or up Rangeline Road. Both of those roads are AlDOT-owned right-of-way, and while the site, with the exception of the wetlands, appears very constructible, I don't see, and unless the city was to take on a project, those sidewalks ever being extended along Rangeline or along Hamilton.
Further questions?
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
There's vacant land along Hamilton, so if that was to come in today, they would be required to do sidewalks.
Most of the corridor along Hamilton Boulevard is industrial settings. There's asphalt plants down there, trucking companies. I mean, it is a mix. There is some.
But this is gonna be some kind of, I'm guessing, maybe also a convenience store, so would people wanna walk to it?
I mean, it's possible,
Possibly
very
at
possible.
lunchtime
Mhm.
or whatever, and if those were developed, that would be required, because now it's city limits.
I can only offer you my opinion.
If it makes a difference, to my knowledge, the convenience store itself will not have any sort of restaurant or anything other than just simply your normal convenience store. So they would probably not be providing full lunches or people going there to sit down and eat for a while or anything else.
Ms. Andrews, do you have a question? No. Okay. Anything further? All right, thank you, Mr. Fletcher. We can take 3 speakers in support of this application. Anyone here in opposition to item number 15? All right, we will move to item number 16. This is our group application. This is a subdivision, a plan unit development and planning approval for 2617 Dolphin Street.
Mr. Watkins, before I begin, can I hand out something to the planning commission members?
Hand to the staff there, they'll get it to us.
My name's Andy Rotenstrike. My address is 420 20th Street North. We are in agreement to all the conditions that the staff has laid out. The only reason I wanted to come up is because I understand that a couple of emails have been received by staff in the last day or so regarding some concerns about placing this cell tower in their backyards. The address is 2617 Dolphin Street. Currently, T-Mobile has antennas atop a 185-foot water tank that sits on property adjacent to the property we're talking about today. That water tank is being dismantled, so the antennas atop the water tank are having to be brought down. So T-Mobile customers have coverage today, but they won't have coverage when this water tank comes down. Because of that, we're proposing this 185-foot monopole to, in essence, replace the water tank that's being brought down. We will place T-Mobile atop the tower. It's going to be about just over 1,000 feet away from where the water tank is, right up, still alongside the railroad tracks behind the Island Wing Company. The good thing about this tower is that we'll be able to accommodate additional carriers when they decide they need better coverage in this area. Unlike the water tank, which could not hold additional carriers, this pole will be able to in the future. Staff recommended approval, and again, as I said, we agreed to abide by all the conditions. The BZA approved our variances, so we're in full compliance with the ordinance. We need the subdivision because the lease parcels now can be required to be separate parcels, and it is in the city of Mobile. We need a plan unit development because we're sharing access to the site through the Island Wing Company's parking lot. And then the planning approval, in order to construct a cell tower in a B3, you need planning commission approval. Now, I've handed you a couple of things. Number one, the one that has the site plan on the front. I'm trying to make sure I don't go too far over my time, but you have the site plan showing essentially in the southwest corner of that odd lot where the site's going. Again, there's plenty of parking behind Island Wing Company. This is going in the back corner of their parking lot. Page 2 just shows an elevation view of what we're proposing. It's the single monopole design. It's not the guide wire tower with the wires coming off in every direction. It's not the three-legged lattice structure. It's the single pole design. You have a zoning map to show you the adjacent zoning in the area. Where it says subject site and has an arrow pointing to it, that's where the proposed tower is going, is where, at the end of the arrow. Where the, just south of the R1 designation on that property is where the existing water tank is. So they're only about 1,000 feet apart. The next two pages are aerial views of the property. The second of the aerial views, this one, I wanted to point out to you just where the existing water tank is versus where the proposed tower is. The next 3 pages show the coverage for T-Mobile in this area. This is our existing coverage, the first coverage map area. Again, the red is what we're striving for here. That's the in-building coverage. These are all T-Mobile sites in and around the area. As you move further away from each of these sites, it gets into the yellow coverage, which we refer to as in-vehicle coverage. If you turn to the next page, you'll see in essence, a hole in this area if this site were to be turned off. That's the blue in the center. That means no coverage. If you turn the page again to the next to last page of your packet, this is coverage back on with a 185-foot pole. So we're trying not to lose signal and coverage in this area. For T-Mobile, this site does carry 911 service. So again, if we lose coverage here, we could lose that coverage as well. The last page is a engineer certified letter. I'd like to direct your attention to the last sentence. In the unlikely event of total separation, so this is in the unlikely event that the tower were to fail, it would result in the portion above collapsing within a radius of 34 feet. So in the unlikely event of this pole coming down, it doesn't fall like a tree, we build a stress point in the pole itself. And that stress point is going to be 34 feet from the top of the pole. So if something were to happen, it would bend over and that portion would fall down within the compound. Quickly, this last stack of documents I gave you was just to show you that we did our homework here. We are fairly limited on how far we can look for a pole in this area, or for land to place a pole in this area, because we have to stay fairly close to the existing site so as not to lose the coverage and connect the different towers together. So what we had them do here is I had them draw this map that identified every group of parcels within the search area. And then this last page indicates why this parcel that we're going on is the only piece of property in this whole search area that would work for this proposed site. And you have the reasons in the right-hand column as to why each of those groups of properties did not work. So I wanted you to see this and have this in your records. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer.
Thank you, Mr. Rodenstock.
you.
Questions by commission members? Anyone? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do you have anyone else that's speaking?
No, sir.
All right. We can take 4 speakers in opposition or anybody who has questions concerning this application. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, we will move to deliberation session. Mr. Anderson, is it okay for me to chair the first couple even though I wasn't here?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we will move to our holdovers first. This is holdover of a rezoning application for 5550 through 5590 Perry Road.
I don't wanna make the motion here, but this site needs to be some commercial application of some kind. If you look at this zoning map, there's not another residential zone property at any of these intersections within, you know, whatever distance that is, north or west of the interstate. Every intersection is zoned commercial of some kind. This is the only intersection shown on this map that joins a railroad that's not zoned commercial. So I mean, I get it, they don't want industry, which this isn't industry. They're concerned about the environmental issues, which I don't think this use creates.
But what about, I
And
mean,
I'm not so sure it's the used car lot's the best use, so.
I would say too, you know, looking at the staff report, they do point out that, you know, for that particular site is well below the 4-acre guideline for that particular designation.
Frequently, we use things such as railroad tracks as a line of demarcation for zoning, and say that something on the opposite side of the railroad track from existing commercial zoning is establishing a new freestanding district, which is why we said that with this application. I have not been to the site recently. If I recall, there is a difference in grade between things on the west side of the track and things on the east side. I don't know that it's as much as it is in other places along Government Boulevard, Highway 90, but that was one of the reasons that we referenced spot zoning.
Yeah, it's not a retail site. So it's either a B1 office type site, if there's an office user down there for the contractor's office, or it's more B3 for warehouse distribution, industrial type. So, and that's kind of what they don't want down there.
I guess my question is to, you know, in the staff reports, whenever there's a request for rezoning, you kind of have the criteria that it needs to meet, one of the 4 criteria. You know, and that includes kind of, you know, manifest error in the ordinance, or, you know, the kind of change in need. And I guess I don't see the argument included, you know, for the change in need that would, I guess, justify the rezoning.
Well, the manifest in error is it's a residential site that adjoins a railroad track, and the likelihood that someone's gonna build an R1 residence there is 0 to none.
And it's also on a corner.
It's also on a corner, and every lot is vacant. You got these lots that show they're vacant, and one of the structures there even have vacant on it. So some of the improvements that are along Cary Hamilton are vacant residential structures. So there's your zoning error right there. So kind of wish they would apply to the Board of Adjustments and let them handle this instead of us. No, you please interrupt. I'm tired.
In listening to the long-term residents there, they got annexed in, and one thing, by being part of the city, they get to have zoning classifications. And I think, is that correct? I mean,
Yes.
as far as this was, at one time, anything could have gone. But I would concur that the site is small for a B3. And there are criteria, it meets some of it, but you've got across the street, which is farmland, so, you know, that could stay like that forever, or it could come in, and it's a big program, getting ready to have the map of Mobile, where something like this could be developed very, very appropriately, and be an asset instead of something that might out the chute produce something negative well into the future. So I think the staff's recommendation should be adhered to, and in listening to the residents that are affected by the change.
Ms. Rich, is that a motion, or are we still waiting on a motion?
Well, I'll be happy to make the motion for denial as the staff had recommended.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. Got a motion and a second to deny the application. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So that's Mr. Cameron and Mr. Vallis opposed. All right, we'll move to item number 2. This is a holdover of the plan unit development and planning approval for the north side of Halls Mill Road.
Move for approval, subject to staff recommendation.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Vallis, a second by Mr. Gant. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carry. I'm sorry, we're taking those together, correct? Mr. Vallis, take those
Yes.
together? Okay, thank you. Move to item number 3. This is 6455, 6459 Overlook Road. It's the holdover of the subdivision, PUD, and planning approval. Applicant requested a hold till September 15th. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Amberger. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to item number 4. This is 608, 610, 612, 614 Holcomb Avenue. Hold over the subdivision application and the plan unit development.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Sessions, second by Ms. Latham. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to item number 5. This is 102, 142 A and B, 150 West Drive, to hold over the subdivision, the plan unit development, and the rezoning applications.
That's a question for traffic engineering. I noticed in some of the previous comments, the recommendation was to have a two-way access to Old Shell Road, but I didn't see it in this, just the most recent comments. Is there-
The previous comments was to either revise the access to be one-way northbound or two-way. The initial proposal was one-way southbound or inbound to the property.
Another question for traffic and for engineering. Have we looked at the constructability of that alleyway? Does that alleyway have sufficient enough right-of-way, and is it sufficient to construct, what's effectively a road in there?
The developer's engineer has looked at it and believes it can be built. I do not know if they will need construction easements for any kind of tie-ins, but they are working with the fire department, I do believe, to make sure they have the width that they need or want. I don't think they're gonna get the full 20 foot, but.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Rich?
On that one-way street, that would be something where a resident could decide to use in that manner, and there's not any requirement that it would have to be in something to be used to exit the apartment, right? Because West Drive is a two-way street.
Yeah, there's, unless we, unless we limit the driveway on West Drive to be inbound only.
Big jump curves.
Yeah, and the width, we would still need the required width, and restricting it to inbound only would be difficult.
When this was first proposed from the very beginning, and I think you heard clearly from residents, there's really grave concerns on the amount of traffic that this will produce. And when you look at the site map, it does abut one level of R3, but for the most part, it's R1. And that is the end of the subdivision. There's a ditch. There'll never be another way out in that manner. So their only egress and ingress is out to Old Shell. And it's a minor just residential street. Wasn't equipped to handle a lot of traffic passing. They get people parking. They've got that issue at the top of the street where the off-site parking that accommodates the apartment complex at the edge, which our laws are clear that you're not supposed to have off-site for residential for a good reason because of the conflicts that produces. But that's going on at the top. There's a big power pole up at the front of West Drive, which makes visibility very difficult. If you haven't been down there, I recommend that you take a look at that, and that's not going anywhere. So I know that the staff has made some recommendations, but unless there was a two-way entry point that did not involve West and only a fire gate that was part of a PUD that could be standard and enforced by the city of Mobile, I think the people that are already there have invested in that area, and they need to look forward to future R1s. Obviously, you heard from the developer that 50 56 units could go in, but these are 4 and 5 bedrooms with lots of cars, with student, it's a whole different lifestyle than residential, single-family home. So, I think in respect to them, to think real hard about approving in the affirmative. I think we owe it to our citizens to protect what is their quality of life as best we can. We'll just always adhere to that.
Thank you, Ms. Rich. I had, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if you could confirm that the 58 by right in R1, whether or not that's an accurate number?
Well, if you divide the acreage of the property by 7,200, which is the minimum lot size, yes, you could get between 56 and 58 lots in there. But that's not including streets. You know, that would assume that you have that amount of acreage on an already existing street. If you were to,
4 units per acre more realistically.
yeah, if you were to put the takeout for the streets, you'd probably be able to get maybe 28 or 30 lots in there, given the configuration of this property and how the streets would have to run to provide access. For R3, technically you could have up to 263 units with no restriction on the number of bedrooms, but given where this property is located in proximity to the university, with the parking overlay that requires additional parking for student housing, that would probably significantly reduce the number of units from the 263, but I don't think it would reduce it down to the 73 that's proposed here.
The other question I had, I know in past applications where this type of zoning starts to encroach into the neighborhood, I mean, is that a concern? I know there are some apartment buildings and other developments along Old Shell, but this seems to kind of be moving in toward the neighborhood residential area.
I think one of the reasons that we looked at this a little differently is that while it is student housing, it's not a typical apartment development. The visual impact of it would be more of a single-family residential subdivision almost. These are cottages, so it's not going to be a development like The Edge or some of the other apartment complexes that have been and are being developed in the immediate vicinity.
So aside from the number of units, the major difference is the number of occupants, single occupants per unit.
Correct, because per bedroom.
Per bedroom versus per home.
Correct.
Tom, and I appreciate the fact that South Alabama, and am thrilled that they are growing as fast as they are. And I agree that they also, there is a housing need out in that area. I don't know how you know, it's tough to strike that balance, I think, to accommodate the needs of a growing university that is a vital part of our community and weigh it against the needs of the residents, some of whom were there before the university ever broke up, dug a shovel in. So I think it's a tricky, very tricky area.
It is.
Mr. Olson, going back to the conversation about the R1 versus R3 and the density there, we have seen a number of times where developers have come in R1 with innovative plans that have allowed them either through PUD or through an innovative subdivision to reduce those lot sizes, particularly on some of these zero lot lines. We hear the opposition talking about their more favorable attitude towards townhouses or something along those lines. In your opinion, if they were to come in that format, are we still talking about 50 plus, or are we still below that 50 threshold?
Without some type of design to consider, it'd be very difficult to answer that.
Okay. My other question, and this may be to Mr. Anderson, but that's this easement that they're talking about developing, is that exclusive to this development to where these other apartments will not be pouring out into it, or is it if they pave it, do we need to address curb cuts onto that alley
If-
by other developments, or how do we manage that access?
I don't know the current status of that. Rick just whispered that it's a public. I don't know if, so the university does not own, there's a already dedicated public alley, 20-foot. Then if it's a public alley, then anybody between this complex and university could use it.
Well, and let me back up. There is a little confusion and discrepancy over that alley. Because I recall that the Edge had proposed an exit out onto it, and now that I'm thinking about it a little more in detail, unless there has been a change, that alley shows up only on a drawing that is not a recorded plat, so I'm not sure if it exists. The applicant, I think, has done some more research on it and may be better able to answer that question, but my recollection is that the alley may not exist.
And then, to further that question, the Edge came in under a rezoning and a planning approval, so there's not, there's no.
And there
just an
was no
R3.
planning approval. They came in under a rezoning and a subdivision, and those were at separate times, and there was no condition limiting access to either one of them.
So would they have to come back to either the apartment complex that's directly north or the Edge up on Old Shell and West? Would either of them have to approach us for permission to curb cut onto this alley if this alley exists and if this alley were paved?
Yes.
They would have to come to us first.
If it does, the immediate adjacent apartment complex would, because it is a PUD. The Edge is not a PUD because they changed their development plan to make what had been proposed as multiple buildings a single building, all under a continuous roof and on a continuous slab. So it had to be considered a single building. So there were no restrictions on it other than those that may have been placed on the rezoning and subdivision.
And again, it goes back to whether that alley is a public or private easement. I'm assuming it would be public, based on what I'm hearing.
Further questions?
Well, I know that the emergency vehicles, police, ambulance, fire, they need to go in and out on all directions. And I don't see how a one-way in helps them. If they can't get back out on West, it's the ditch on the other side. You have a lot of people squeezed into the 9 acres. And again, the idea that if it could be 2 ways, that might help because then a fire gate could be established just for West. But I also think there is noise, there is a big change in character to a residential area when you move from the single family to a multifamily. I appreciate what the developer did by making it cottage and appearing to be single family, but it's very much a units for people that are going to the school. There's a big development getting ready to come on board off of Long Street. And just, again, it's a tough thing. Mapamobile talked, about keeping the character of an area, and I think this does take away from the character of what people expect when they get to that back end of the neighborhood. It's very similar in nature, and their hours and coming and going is not a student lifestyle. So in that regard, single family, which could still be student, would still be a better blend, and the staff was sensitive to try to make it look residential, then therefore, perhaps it should stay in the R1 and not just look it, but protect that R1 from a planning principle.
Thank you, Ms. Rich. Further questions or comments?
Just one last clarification, I guess. So we're not sure whether this alley can be built in or not. Is that correct?
Correct, but if it's approved, subject to that, if the alley does in fact not exist, they cannot construct in it. That makes the approval moot, should you choose to approve it.
That's my question. So that basically would
Negate.
negate all the approvals.
Yes, sir.
So to Ms. Rich's point, single cottages that look like single-family homes
Mhm.
are still not single-family homes, right?
Correct.
Appropriate for an R1, right?
In this configuration, correct.
They'd have to do a 36 or 40 lot subdivision.
This is
Like
one lot.
36 or 40, 3 or 4 bedroom homes, zone at R1.
We can't regulate who lives there.
And they could still rent them out.
Absolutely.
As 36 or 40 units, which is half of what they're proposing.
Richard, I think we'd like to hear from the developer again to answer just.
That's up to.
Chairman, specifically, can't say that word. Yeah, that's what she's saying. Tell us what they know about the
Stites, would you come up,
existence of that
please?
alley.
And I don't want this to get off topic. We're not re-arguing the points. The question that we are trying to understand is based on your research, what the status of this alley is.
Okay.
Title-wise, have y'all got any title information on it?
Right.
Have you got any information from the city or from traffic that gives y'all the understanding that this is something that you can open and access?
Right, Mr. Watkins, according to the plan that we submitted, and in looking at the tax parcels, it is currently owned by the city, and it's shown as a city right-of-way or city public easement. So above and beyond that, we you know, our title work, our title commitment, since this PUD was subject to us being able to access that and use that. You know, our original plan was to go to the university and try to get additional land, but at this point in time, the university is not interested in that. And Harry Brislin from University of South Alabama was at our last neighborhood meeting. So, again, not to get off topic, but what I heard the neighbors say was more concerned about traffic out. And I'm sensitive to everyone's comments, but pending what happens today, then we would probably issue, go and get our title commitment and have our attorney research exactly the constructability of that easement.
Thank you, sir.
So,
You have any other questions?
So who would maintain this alley? The developer?
I think it would end up being dedicated, wouldn't it? If it's a, yeah, it'd be a
If it's
city, once
So
it's
it'd be
constructed.
dedicated one way.
Just like
Alleyways are typically
any other
gonna be the
subdivision where the
property
streets are
owners.
created and dedicated when the plat's recorded.
Well, and
How
al-
many one-way streets have we taken on recently? Is that in character?
Alleyways can be quite tricky. And typically, they're maintained by the abutting property owners that all abut, and they use that access for their convenience. If it were dedicated as a city street and it can constructed to a city street standard and recommended by the engineering department, then it's up to the city council to actually accept those for maintenance.
But given that it's 20 feet, it would only be able to be a one-way street.
That's the
Correct.
Yeah, it's gonna, I mean, the
If it was
construct.
dedicated. If
the-
it wasn't dedicated,
Yeah, the constructability
But
is.
it's not, it's already owned by the city. So it's not, I don't think it's a dedication question, Mr. Anderson. Build out and maintenance, yep.
And the fact that it's one-way isn't mandatory as a movement from this development. So it doesn't solve it tries to solve, and it might take some of the stress off, but it's not anything that would be mandated. The city can't watch that.
Well, for the sake of, or for the knowledge of my fellow commissioners, where this lines up on Old Shell Road, it's effectively going to be a right out only. Because if you go in there and look at it where it is on the striping, there's a left turn lane into the university. So if this road were constructed to the north, it's just gonna, road's just gonna turn to the right.
Mhm.
They're not gonna use it to get to south.
So I don't know that you really accomplished anything
It's
by
not
doing
gonna
it.
change the traffic problems, which are already noted. And again, classification and blending in, I think we should respect that end of that block, because that's they don't have any other recourse for getting in and out.
Further questions or comments? I think we need to call the question, please.
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is just to, I guess, for the staff. You know, just the way the the site is. It looks like it kind of, you know, there are these two residential parcels that are kind of like left in an island should this be rezoned. Do you have any comments or thoughts on that scenario?
Let me get to it. Excuse me just a second. Come on. Why is it not reacting? The ones that front on West Drive with the two houses on them. I would say that is a good question.
So is the parcel to the south of this vacant?
No, that's who spoke, Miss,
That's what I thought, but doesn't it say vacant on here?
it does,
Yeah.
maybe.
I think maybe, well, she'll have it. I think she
Okay.
might have both.
All right, got it.
All right, folks, I need a motion, please. We've got so we'll take these together. Ms. Rich has made a motion to deny the subdivision, PUD, and rezoning.
Second.
Second by Ms. Andrews. Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
So that's Mr. Gant and Mr. Amberger. All right, the motion to deny carries. Move to extensions. Both are for approval. We take 6 and 7 together, and I'll make the motion to approve both extensions. A motion and a second by Mr. Doyle. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Let the record reflect that Ms. Sessions is recused. On 7. All right, we'll go to new subdivision applications. Start item number 8. This is Prism Systems Subdivision 834 South Conception.
Move for approval, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vallis, second by Mr. Amberger. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9 was withdrawn. We'll go to item number 10. This is Sahori Subdivision, 1804, 1806 Tolman Avenue, 2301 through 2311 St. Stephen's.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Amberger, second by Ms. Latham. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to item 11. This is 6 and 8 St. Joseph Bedsole Subdivision.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Doyle, second by Ms. Sessions. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 12 is 7765 Airport Boulevard, Westwood Plaza.
I move we approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Latham, second by Ms. Rich. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Go to item 13. This is west terminus of Nichols Drive, Rosen subdivision. Application was recommended for holdover to September 1st. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vallis. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Go to new plan unit developments. Item 14, 4101 Wimbledon Drive West.
Move for approval, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vallis, second by Mr. Amberger. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to sidewalk waiver applications. This is 6585 Rangeline Road, Baker Development.
A motion to approve the waiver of sidewalks.
Second.
Got a motion to approve the waiver by Mr. Amberger and a second by Mr. Cameron.
That would be me.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Rich opposes. Ms. Latham opposes. Mr. Doyle opposes. So that's, motion carries. Go to item number 16. This This is group applications. This is 617 Dolphin Street, subdivision PUD, planning approval. I think we can take all three together.
I'll move for approval subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vallis, second by Mr. Gant. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. That's the end of our agenda. Mr. Olson, have you got any other business or anything we need to be made aware of?
Yes, sir, we do have some other business. At this time, we would like to ask Ms. Vico and Mr. Underwood to present y'all with an update on the map for Mobile. Sorry. I gotta do the hyperlink to get to it. There we go. See all slides. Oh, I'm sorry.
It looks like this. You can share with me.
We're gonna make a presentation. Should we go right underway?
Good afternoon. We'll try to move very quickly with this. Y'all have spent a lot of time focusing on the agenda for today, so we want to be sensitive to your time. In November of 2013, of course, you all know the Planning Commission approved the adoption of Map for Mobile as the city's comprehensive plan for growth and development. In that approved resolution, it specifies that an annual update be presented to the Planning Commission to ensure the execution and implementation of the plan. So today, again, we appreciate the opportunity to update the Commission on a number of high priority action items. You can go to the next slide. For those of you that are becoming more familiar with the Map for Mobile framework, let me first state that this framework plan outlines a series of goals and policies that we believe will guide our future planning efforts into 2025 and beyond. As you are all aware, the primary responsibility for the Map for Mobile lies with the city's long-range planning team. This team is responsible for working to ensure that our planning efforts are carried to fruition. So I'd like to take the time to brief you on our efforts and make a few introductions for the members of this team. And let me say, it's a collective effort of our city planning departments combined with the work of our planning and development planners. But I want to introduce you specifically. I think most of you have met by now Brian Underwood. He's the Deputy Director of Long Range Planning. Brian, if you'd stand up for just a second. But new to our team, Brian's been on board with us for 3 months, but new to our team is Matt Jollett. Matt is the city's, to my knowledge, first ever urban designer. Both Brian and Matt come to us with a number of years in the public and private sector. Brian is a certified planner with the American Institute of Planners, and of course, Matt is a professional landscape architect. Let's see. I think I got it. I'm pleased to report that many of our planning initiatives are successfully underway. We're in the process of tracking the 71 initiatives identified in the plan to ensure measurable results and outcomes. Again, led by the long-range team, and our many department heads are working together with key staff to meet on a very regular basis to review the progress of implementation. This group most recently met actually last week to report on a number of key initiatives. So we're pleased today to share with you what all has been accomplished in just a few short months. Let me first say that this represents a collaboration. Some of the initiatives that you'll see today are certainly very specific to the city, but It has required the work of a number of organizations external to our city functions to make these initiatives happen successfully. Again, the Map for Mobile framework outlines a multi-year plan. The associated plan outlines 4 planning horizons, ongoing, near-term, mid-term, and long-term stages, which help us to ensure progress as we stay in concert with the city's capital improvement plan and other funding sources. This next slide reminds us that the primary implementation tool for the Map for Mobile is through the various specific action plans and regulations. You'll note throughout this update that many of the more detailed studies and specific strategies have been initiated and are underway. I'll turn it over to Brian Underwood, and he's just going to walk you through a few of the initiatives that we are in the progress of realizing and give some information on ones that are to come. Brian?
Okay. In the area of mobility, infrastructure, and transportation, there are many initiatives underway. One of the most important initiatives is the ADA intersection condition assessment that is being undertaken collaboratively with the Metropolitan Planning Organization. There are over 690 miles of sidewalk within the city. The ADA assessment requires that the condition and status of the sidewalks be evaluated to ensure or determine compliance. Other initiatives underway, the engineering department is addressing collectively sidewalks, street repairs, and drainage infrastructure improvements citywide. And through 2016, this is through the 2016, 17, and 18 capital improvement planning process. At the present time, the engineering department has approximately $8.8 million worth of infrastructure improvements underway within the city. In the top right, Ann Street is an example that has been rebuilt. One segment, and other segments will continue to be addressed in the coming years. The bottom slides, you can see sidewalks have been installed or replaced there near Langen Park. In regard to parks, recreation, and natural resources, one of the important aspects that the city is managing through the Environmental Engineering Department is the MS4 stormwater permit through ADEM. There are many efforts to reduce litter within the city going on consistent with requirements of the MS4 permit. There have been storm drain inlet protections added, as you see in the bottom right, to prevent trash from going down into the storm drains that would end up in the rivers and in the bay. The city maintains litter collection boats. Two vessels are used to patrol waters to collect rubbish. And up in the top right is a litter trap on Aslava Creek, which catches floatable litter following rain events. And also the education programs are sponsored through the Keep Mobile Beautiful program to foster community cleanup efforts. Regarding additional parks, recreation, and natural resource action items, for park master plans, there are several initiatives underway. Importantly, the 3 Mile Creek Trail Management Plan is being worked on. Segment A of the 3 Mile Creek Trail project has been funded for construction at a cost of approximately $386,000. That's a 1.7 mile segment between Pecan Street on the east and West Ridge Road on the west end. Additionally, a GIS map has been prepared, and that's on the city website to identify the location of many of the parks and recreation areas within the city. And additionally, ADA accessibility studies are being conducted within the city park and recreation areas. Regarding downtown and other special districts, the MIG Water Street Plan has been adopted, and this project will initially involve reducing a 6-lane vehicle facility to a 4-lane facility with dedicated bike lanes. And additionally, there will be improvements to help connect the downtown visitors to the Mobile riverfront and amenities such as the Cooper Riverside Park, the Convention Center, and Gulf Quest Marine Museum, as well as the Mobile Cruise Terminal. For downtown and other special districts, again, you're aware of the recent award of the Tiger Grant to the city in the amount of over $14.5 million. That will promote job growth and connect citizens to jobs down at the Mobile Aeroplex and along the Water Street area. It will promote economic revitalization. Also, the Tool Design Group study for mobility specified the Complete Streets Initiative. That will again improve multimodal transportation opportunities there along Broad Street with bicycle lanes and better landscaping, etc. In regard to historic preservation, there have been some opportunities acted upon for the downtown area with historic preservation. There's currently a Right Tree, Right Place initiative that is being studied to develop guidelines to help the landscaping standards, meet a design standard downtown in the historic areas. Also, the design review guidelines for the historic districts were recently adopted this past spring for the historic areas. In terms of economic development, there is development activity going on at the cruise ship terminal to try to ready the facility for resumption of cruise ship service there this fall. Also, Mardi Gras Park is under construction. At the present time, a total of $6.8 million have been allocated for improvements at these two facilities. Regarding mobility, transportation, and infrastructure, the St. Louis Street High-Tech Corridor is being developed as a technology center. This is under construction within the Central Business District. Funding has been contributed by the city as well as through the University of South Alabama and the U.S. Department of Commerce. Additionally, some low-cost, high-impact traffic solutions have been implemented on St. Louis Street. Excuse me, that is for some restriping that also provides bicycle lanes in an area that did not historically have bike lanes. Regarding city facilities and services, there's a lot of activity in this area currently. An RFP is being advertised seeking consultants to provide an assessment of city facilities. That includes the Civic Center downtown. A parking assessment is also being undertaken by planning to try to determine ways to improve vehicle parking downtown. And that would include possibilities for improvement in the areas of lighting, wayfinding, also by providing safe connectivity routes, sidewalks between parking areas and various amenities and commercial areas downtown. Also, InterGov, excuse me, InterGov is a software program that is being implemented by the city. It should be launched this fall, and that is going to provide a online permitting service to citizens who are seeking development permits. It will also provide a way to apply for planning commission approvals, various other city permits online that will be available around the clock to citizens through the internet. And it will also improve the connectivity among city departments to help expedite the reviews of these permit applications. In terms of alignment tools, the Map for Mobile specifies action items, and the capital improvement plan for 2017 has been tailored in a way to provide some prioritization and optimization for proposed projects that supported Map for Mobile action items. And the process applied criterion for strategic alignments of projects where applicable, and 20% of the individual score for proposed projects was based on their level of consistency with the action items in the map for Mobile. The 5 parameters that were used in that individual score were mobility and connectivity, neighborhoods, city facilities and services, economic development, and natural resources. And those all tie into Map for Mobile elements. And then the other 80% was based on criticality, viability, and community benefit. And this is kind of a funding cycle that shows the correlation between the Map for Mobile, individual project approvals, the capital improvement annual planning, leading to the budget preparation, and then allocation of funds. So it is a complete cycle that has been developed to help ensure that the action items in the Map for Mobile are adequately funded where applicable to continue to implement the required action items.
You are all aware that in June, this past June, we kicked off the zoning overhaul. That process is going well. The first phase of implementation, or rather development of that plan, will consist of an update to the future land use plan as well as the major street study. That would be very important to the Planning Commission for a number of reasons, but as we tie into our zoning work, that future land use plan specifically is going to help inform decisions as it relates to our zoning classification update. Our consultants will be in town this month. The purposes of this month's meeting are really to focus conversations from a technical perspective with staff. They will be participating in a series of charrettes with entities such as Moz, Mobile Gas, and other utility providers, so that we were helping the consultants understand our specific landscape. In September, we will be starting our stakeholder meetings, giving opportunity to the Planning Commission members as well as the many neighborhood groups that we have been meeting with, an opportunity for new groups to engage, but to really hear from the full realm of our city stakeholders, the opportunity to learn and provide input on this process early on. We, as a staff, coordinate on a very regular basis in meetings to understand some of the current issues that are being presented to you as Planning Commission members, but also to ensure that we're staying linked with our consultant to ensure that we have a good product at the end of this 2-year process. Relating to the focused planning efforts, we receive monies through local and state foundations to assist us with neighborhood planning efforts. We have a number of community groups who are very active and have mobilized their efforts and are partnering with the city to realize objectives that they've outlined in their planning efforts. But we realize that that needs to be scaled out to provide opportunities for additional neighborhood groups to first gain capacity through city support to formalize their efforts. But now that we are fully staffed as a long-range planning division, that will extend the opportunity to work with these groups hand in glove in the development of plans for their areas, but also to help them understand the number of city functions, how they work, how they exist, and how neighborhood groups can parallel their efforts with many of our city functions. An RFQ for this effort will be hopefully distributed sometime next month, so we are asking for planning consultation support to help us with our neighborhood collaborations there. This last slide really speaks back to our alignment tool. This represents a website, fixmobile.org, which will give the citizenry an opportunity to understand the number of capital improvement projects that are going on in the city. In an effort to be more transparent, this user-friendly web tool will allow the average citizen to be able to connect to the number of projects that may be impacting them directly in their neighborhood to understand the progress of those projects. The website will be launched hopefully sometime next week, so stay tuned for fixmobile.org. And I think it's a great way for not just citizens, but from groups from all sectors to understand the number of capital projects that are going on in the city and to be a part of the planning process as we move forward with that 3-year plan. And lastly, we wanted to take this opportunity to provide you with this interim update, but thinking back to the original approval that was extended to us via the Map for Mobile plan, we'll be developing a written report that we will distribute to each of you as Planning Commission members, and also this report will be extended to citizens online and in paper copy to stay up to date on our efforts. Additionally, we'll be coming back in the coming months as we will be revisiting the action plan because a number of those initiatives are being successfully accomplished. We recognize that there are new opportunities that are out there that we need to sync with our plan and determine, how future funding sources and other parallel efforts can be combined with our plan. So we will come back to you with that report, with that update, and ask for your approval and adoption of that plan. That wraps up our presentation for today. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone would like to share.
Thank you, Ms. Biko. Questions by anyone?
I have just one quick question. The 71 initiatives, is that online somewhere, or do you have a list that?
Sure, so it's represented in the plan. Appendix A starts with our action plan. I think it's toward the end of the document. I'll have to pull a copy, but if you have a hard copy, or if you go to mapformobile.org, that action plan is within the full document.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Mr. Olson?
Yes, sir, just a couple more very quick things.
Thank you, Ms. Biko.
I'm sorry, a couple of more very quick things. Following up on what Ms. Biko mentioned about the consultant being in town in September, we would like to hold an orientation meeting with the commission on September 22nd at 2 o'clock in the multipurpose room. That's a Thursday, and off Thursday from Planning Commission, which is normally when we do business meetings. We have not had a business meeting in a while, so we would tie that into the end of the orientation that Ms. Biko will be presenting on the consultants. And then, as I mentioned last meeting, we are still looking into the CAPSO classes from University of North Alabama. Ms. Gatlin, who is over those, and I have kind of been playing email tag. We don't have a range of dates yet, but it would definitely be fall, not later this month, not early September. As soon as I have a range of dates, I will send y'all an email and get a count and do the same thing with the Board of Adjustment. Hopefully we can get enough people that they will be willing to do the class here in Mobile. I think it would be beneficial for everybody.
And when will you have the calendar for the next fiscal year?
I had intended to bring that today,
Okay.
but it kind of slipped away from me. So I will have it, and Lisa will help remind me to have it at the next meeting.
Okay. Anything further? All right, well, I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for your time. We stand adjourned.